All right, welcome everybody. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. It is going to be Tuesday, 3/23/21. It's about 11:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I typically will go live over to my Patreon folks and just do the show live. I was not able to do that this morning just because I've had all kinds of little issues that just prevented me from being able to do that. For example, the ADSB exchange site went down and mid-stroke. And so I wasn't able to finish doing what I was trying to pull together data-wise. And so I had to restart. Neighbor's dog decided he was going to howl at the emergency vehicles right outside my window. And so it's just been a series of unfortunate events that are preventing me from going live right now this morning. So without further ado, we're going to do this recorded SITREP. I apologize to my Patreon folks who normally see me go live. But I will kind of break this down. Now, as we get into it from time to time, I will kind of unpack it just so I can show you guys how I get to where I get and some of the filters that we go through. I had one of my Patreon howler monkeys, Bill, asked me yesterday, how to get to certain things. And so I was just kind of backing into this because I know occasionally we do get new followers that don't understand any of this. And so by being able to break this into some digestible content so that they can learn as they go and they're not just completely lost. And so that's what I'm going to do a little bit of this morning just for our new folks. Okay. Now this, what you're seeing right now is all the commercial air traffic. Okay. So I use a website called adsbexchange.com. Now, when you first go to that website, I'm going to back up just so I can show you the main site, okay? When you get to the main page that greets you, you're going to see this pulled up. I got a little donate button up here for people. This is not my website by any means, but I certainly think if we're going to use them, we should support them. And they do amazing work. And it's a very cool website, probably one of the best out there, okay? In terms of military tracking and having that ability to separate it and not have to look through a sea of things, okay? So when you first get to this page, if you just go up here to currently tracking, okay, that's going to pull up your main page of aircraft, all right? Now you close out all the little pop-up ads that come on, and you're going to get this over in the corner. It doesn't matter whether you're pay to play or if it's free. On this one, you'll get advertisements and just kind of have to go through that and ignore it, all right? Now you're going to see on my screen, it's popping in. I'm sitting at, there's like 8,800 aircraft up. And now this is just, looks like a unicorn sneezed on here. It's just giant sea of this pink and purple and blues, okay? And that's because that is showing the altitude. So if you go down here to this slide bar at the bottom that I'm showing you, these are going to be down at 0. So when you see things that are red or orange, okay, these are on ground. Gray is actually on ground, and you'll see that. And then as it slides through and you see these different colors, when you get up here in these purples, these are aircraft that are up around 40,000 feet. So they're up there high altitude. And so this is all commercial and military combined, but this is everything that's in the skies over the U.S. right now. So you could imagine an EMP event took place, it would be raining airplanes, folks. It's incredible. Now, this little red one right here, I want to show you, that is your Google balloon. So when you see that, these are supposedly, and I'm going to say that with tongue in cheek, okay? These are supposedly out there that allow people in areas that don't receive great Wi-Fi to receive great Wi-Fi. I don't believe that. That may be part of it, but I will tell you, or internet, not necessarily Wi-Fi, sorry, that would be pretty high Wi-Fi. It sits at 63,800 feet right now. That's about the average, 58,000, 60,000. Only thing that's going to hit that at that altitude is going to be a U-2 plane or, the old SR-71s, maybe a drone, okay? But this bad dude, I don't buy into that it's giving internet to folks in remote locations exclusively. I think it does a lot more other stuff. It just floats along. It's one of these balloons, and it floats along these areas, and I think it's doing surveillance, to be honest with you, and gathering data because it is Google, okay? And Google, for those not familiar, is, that was founded and developed by DARPA, okay, which is your Department of Defense, and they do a lot of black programs. And so DARPA developed Google, Facebook, 23andMe, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. That is all DARPA generated. And what they do is they create these, the internet, for example, and then they spin it off and put in a figurehead to prop up as a public speaking voice and make it a public company, but they still continue to data mine all of the data, okay? And so there is no real separation there. They like you to believe it's a separation because it's a publicly held company, but there's really not, okay? All right, so now what I do next is I go up here and I hit this U filter, okay? And that U filter brings it into nothing but military aircraft, okay? No more commercial, filters all of that out. All right, and now this right here, make sure your P is off. That is persistence. Now, when you're on this, there are different filters along the side here. I typically select the O, which is going to be the O and the K. And so that just gives you your labels and extension. They're kind of self-explanatory. And then this also your tracking labels. So when you click on something, that's what you're going to see, right? That little white label that pops up. And so it tells me what the aircraft is without having to click on it. Okay, now this little table along the side is going to actually tell you all of your aircraft that are up. All right, and you can see there's a long line, and this will give you kind of an idea. So for example, we got quite a few H-60s up. These are all, you know, H-60 Blackhawks, okay? And so, but these H-53, that's going to be one of your Jolly Greens or your Sea Stallions. And then you got a couple Chinooks. So you can see, you can rack and stack it on the side. Now this will tell you how many, so we have, looks like 4 P3s that are up and a P8. Now these P3s, one of them's Canadian, that's up here, up here, and that's looking for, you know, these are sub hunters, okay? Then we've got 3 R-135s that are up, and those are down in here in Texas. I know that because I was already looking at this map before it went out on me and I had to restart, okay? And so those are your electronic suites, all right, surveillance aircraft, okay? And so, but this is how you get kind of your side filter, and you can go through and look. And so when you see some of these up, these are gonna be your call signs over here in the left column. And a minute ago, one of the things I want to point out was that yesterday when we were in the process of doing our SITREP live on Patreon, we were tracking Air Force 2, and we watched Bob Marley come into Jacksonville, okay? And so now we have confirmation here that she was on the ground right here, that Bob Marley arrived in Jacksonville on Air Force 2 before 2 p.m., okay? And this is a picture of Air Force 2. So this is going to be one of your 757-200s, all right? Confirmation, 12:52 p.m. That's going to be Central Time. So we were doing our live show at around 12:30 is when we started. All right, so I'm going to exit out of that because it keeps kicking up our advertisements and weird stuff in the background without me prompting it. And so, all right, now that said, this morning, so yesterday while we were watching this, we had a second Air Force 2, which is unprecedented. I've never seen that ever in tracking these. When you have Air Force 2, that is because it gets that call sign because the Vice President of the United States has his butt in the seat on that aircraft. That's the only time they're allowed to call Air Force 1 or Air Force 2 is when one of them are on board. And so if you have both of them, like we had the other day, you had both Flashbang and Bob Marley on Air Force 1, or NA as they've been calling it. That aircraft becomes actually Air Force 1 because it takes precedence with Flashbang on there. Now, when Flashbang leaves and gets off that aircraft, and that aircraft only has Bob Marley on it, then it becomes Air Force 2, okay? So, in order for an aircraft to be named Air Force 1, Air Force 2, just the rules of engagement are that it has to have one of them butts in the seat, okay? And so yesterday we were in the middle of our SITREP, and I started reading my chat feed, and people were asking that very question, and I thought that's what they were relating to, but I didn't realize that we had another Air Force 2 that had left DC headed westbound to Colorado Springs, okay? Now, so then when we saw it, I was like, wow, this is crazy. It doesn't make any sense because we know for a fact that Bob Marley is in Jacksonville speaking, okay? So that said, that aircraft remained in Colorado overnight, okay? Now we know we had an event that took place in Colorado yesterday. Probably going to see a lot more of those because of the legislation that's being pushed through for 2A type of stuff. And I mean, it's a sea of it. So they're definitely coming for your pew-pews, 100%. So stay frosty on that one, okay? But you're probably going to start to see an increase in those type of things because it has already passed the House. And if they can get it through the Senate, then all of a sudden we're going to be very tight on restriction wise for everything we do. It's going to open the door for them to come in and actually take your stuff. Okay. And so, they're coming for it 100%. So, but that said, we are, if you've got the Denver area, now Boulder is just a little bit north of Denver, and that's where our event took place yesterday. And so this other aircraft, this Air Force 2 had flown into south of Denver, which was a little ways away, okay? And so this morning, Air Force 2 again rolls out of Colorado Springs and heads eastbound. Last time I tracked it, it was into the Tennessee area, and I think it was either Nashville, landed in Nashville or Memphis. I lost track of it because my my open ADSB went blank, and then my secondary, I was tracking something else by that time. So now from time to time, and so let me just show you one other thing here real fast, and this is for Bill because he's one of my howler monkeys on Patreon had asked this question. When you get outside of the United States, everything goes into the native tongue. And so if I'm looking at Israel or the UAE or Qatar or Afghanistan or anything like that, what happens is it goes into their native language. And to get out of that, you have to come over here and select right here under carto.com light_all. Okay. If you're in here where I usually go as a street map, right, works great for the US, okay? But when you get overseas, and I'll just show you guys, when you're overseas in that, you can see very quickly, this is all like native language stuff, okay? And it's very hard to see, it's very small, and it's all gibberish, okay? And I can't make sense of that. So to make that into English, you go down here to carto.com, select that, and now you've got everything in English, okay? All right, now back over to the United States. So we do have a anomaly here, and I don't know how to explain it, the fact that we have a secondary Air Force 2 up. Today it doesn't seem so out of the norm because we don't have the primary Air Force 2 up, but I can tell you that Bob Marley was not on that aircraft because she was in Jacksonville, okay? And so now for that aircraft to fly again as that call sign and come in to this area, is definitely suspect because we know that she went back to Washington, D.C., aka the Brown Zone yesterday, okay? And that aircraft remained overnight out here. So there's definitely something very strange and off about that. I've never seen it before, like I said. All right, but we will move on, all right, and continue to monitor that particular. There it is again. And it looks like it is just taken off. And so we have caught it. And let's see, where are you coming out of here? I can't see because of the weather, but all right, but that's definitely coming out of Tennessee, it looks like, from what I can tell. There's Birmingham, Alabama, so yeah, that's going to be Tennessee. And so there's Dalton, Georgia. All right, so now this plane is actually rolling out, headed, looks like it's probably headed back to the Brown Zone. And again, as Air Force 2, and I can tell you, not on it, all right, 100%. So here we go. That is very strange. All right. And so let's get on over to our use here. Okay. Let's look at the P3s real fast. Now, I've been watching a lot of crazy activity. Now, we know from recent reports that we've got a Soviet sub that is stealthy that has disappeared. And I've even actually read other reports that there may be a second stealthy sub that has disappeared. And that's kind of like along the lines of the hunt for Red October. Very strange, but it does explain one of the things that I keyed on You remember back about a week before CPAC, we had a sea of P-8 and P-3 aircraft flying off the east coast of Florida. And I said, man, they are definitely looking for something. I thought maybe it was related to CPAC. It doesn't appear so. And so here we are. This is West Coast. We've got one P3 just jumped up. We've got another one that's popped out. These are both coming out of the Seattle area. And then we've got two P3s down here currently. Here's one of them. And that one has been doing some search patterns, as well as this one has been off here doing some search patterns. Now this one is 450 feet. Looks like he's descending. Just took off and is leveled off. Let's see what he does. See if he comes out and does some more search activity. But this one here, we actually had it out here doing some more search grids. You can see it is definitely flying around. Now this is an area where we do get a lot of naval ships that actually park in here off of Long Beach. You know, this general area, we see a lot of warships. We see a lot of things that go in and out of San Diego. And so not uncommon to see, you know, P3s out here, but the fact that it seems to be looking and searching for something is very strange, because if it was a U.S. sub, they would probably just surface right here, and you wouldn't have to have this flyover thing activity going on. It's kind of odd, unless they're training, okay? But knowing that we have a sub that is, or maybe even two subs that are missing, definitely suspect, okay? Now, if we get out here, again, we've got more P3s as I get down. Let me get into my scroll into my list here on the side. All right, so we've got a Canadian P3 that's right up here. Now, this one is also out, just seems to be searching in this general area, okay? That happened yesterday as well, okay? And so let me back up a little bit, and we're going to get out here over Florida, and I'm going to tell you we've got more. So these, it's a C-130, but let me see here. Where did our P3s go? Let me just, we've got one P3 and two P8s that are in this general area. So you can see this one is coming out of Jacksonville Naval Air Station. Looks to be coming back into base now, but this one has been out here for a little while, flying around, doing a little search activity off the coast. Again, you know, just that same search area we've been watching all the way in here. So I still think we've got some concerns, and even the Canadians are concerned. And then, of course, yesterday when we were looking at Israel, they were out off of their coast with some of their search aircraft. Now, they weren't the P3s or P8s. It was one of their Gulfstream high-tech spy aircraft. And we had two or three of those up, and we've seen that for a couple of days now as well. So definitely when you get a stealthy sub missing, and you know, they don't know where it is, and you see all of this activity going on, there's a lot of concern, because keep in mind those subs are definitely, they carry nukes, okay? And so they can come right up on your coast and launch, and if they do from that close, there's not going to be much you can do to you know, counter that attack with, you know, it's a matter of minutes, and they can take out a target very quickly. And they hold, some of those will hold, you know, 15 or 20 nukes. So they could pretty much take out every major city of a country in a matter of minutes from launch. And so pretty amazing, but also pretty scary at the same time, okay? All right, so we've got our Air Force 2. Looks like that thing is bugging out, and we'll keep an eye on that as we get through this SITREP, see where it goes. I'm going to show you real fast. We're going to get into the TFRs, but again, this right here, if you want to get into U.S. names, that's how you do it, okay? And so that was per a bill from Patreon. And so hopefully I answered your question, and hopefully everybody else has that same response now, and so they can all also do the same thing. So, okay. All right, so now let's, we're going to back up just a little bit. I'll come back to this. I'm going to hit P, so we've got persistence mode on. You can see down here in the bottom corner, Open ADSB has got a little bit of issues going on right now. They keep losing connectivity, and so it could be me, but it's just something to keep an eye on. If I come back over here and it's blank, I may have to pause for a minute and then just do some editing. So, all right, now this is going to be an aircraft I just picked up a minute ago. I was looking at it. This is why I lost the Air Force 2 earlier, because I was out looking at this. These are going to be, this is your Spec Ops. This is U.S. Air Force Spec Ops aircraft, and these are what we have been watching in the past called, they are your magma birds, okay? And so this one's coming in and out of, looks to be Puerto Rico, which is a pretty common for that one to come and go, okay? And so it's on ground now, so we just lost it, all right? But those are your Dorniers, and I'm going to show you, we've got several of those bad dudes up across the U.S. as well as across over in the Middle East right now. And so it looks like our Spec Ops birds are definitely busy. So these are all right here when you get these. That one is out here over Colorado. You've got another one down here in the Jacksonville area. And again, this is going to be those are your Spec Ops birds, okay? Really pretty little aircraft, but that's U.S. Air Force, what they call a Wolfhound. It's a C-146A high wing, right? Lands just about anywhere. It doesn't take a lot of runway, and it's a good little aircraft, can get a good sized team in and out. And so, but that's what we have there, okay? Now, when I show you where they are over in the Middle East, knowing what I just told you, you definitely can tell we are up to something, okay? All right, so this right here is called Flight Radar 24. It is an excellent tool. It doesn't have, I haven't been able to find it to where you can separate military from commercial. It kind of gives you a whole view of everything. One of the things that it does do that is a very nice feature that I found, and it's good to kind of have a backup. If you do identify an aircraft, say for example, we have Air Force 2, and you want to make sure that it is actually being called Air Force 2, or that you not have some kind of a strange anomaly going on in terms of maybe just an ADSB exchange site software issue. You can come over here and also find that aircraft. You're going to have to search a little harder because military stuff, if you key in their call signs, it doesn't always pull it up, okay? So, but one of the other features this thing has is it's got a playback feature. And so if you, for example, yesterday, when we had the incident going on in Boulder, you can actually go in, hit playback, and it'll actually pull up a timestamp. Now, if you're a member like myself, I pay for membership on this one, and it's not much. It's like, a couple bucks a month. But you can go back 90 days, okay? And so I could actually go back to any airport, key in a date, key in a time, and hit start playback. And it'll actually pull me into that, and I can see all the air traffic that came in and out of that area over a period of time. So it's pretty remarkable. The other thing too that it does is it'll actually show you aircraft on ground. And so if you're at a particular airport and you decide, hey, you know what, I'm kind of curious to see what aircraft are parked, this can go back also like 10 days or so. And so you can actually kind of backtrack if you have a paid account and see what aircraft are on ground. Now, it isn't all inclusive. It doesn't always capture everything. So sometimes military aircraft won't show. For example, I used this tool when Trump flew into CPAC. And that aircraft, because it flew in as an NA, it never showed up on ground, even though we tracked it in and out to and from West Palm Beach, okay? And that was one of those little global GLEX aircraft, as we are about to show you here in a minute, of some of the others that are out there, okay? All right, two great tools to use, and very good for cross-referencing your data if you're looking at things, okay? All right, so now let's get over to the spa, aka Guantanamo Bay. All right, and so it looks like we are starting to see a normal rhythm going on with these Charleston aircraft. And so we're going to start to add these to our kind of our normal tempo. Now, the thing that is interesting with that is the fact that, yes, they are new. They were out of sequence at first, but as you can see, they're starting to find that rhythm on the board. So, but the thing that's interesting is that they aren't replacing anything. They are additional aircraft. I still see our normal flights coming in and out during the week from Norfolk, Virginia, and Jacksonville and some of the other areas. And so when you see that, that tells me that they are supporting additional bodies probably. And so it looks like we've got maybe a head count that is increased at Guantanamo Bay. You know, that is kind of a cause for concern, because if we hear of rumors that, oh, they're going to be shutting it down, and then you see the opposite occurring with an influx of people, that just goes to tell you we're being lied to again, okay? And so we want to keep track of that, and that's one of the things that I do, is watching it. Now, as I've mentioned in the past, these are all charter aircraft, okay? You're not going to see military aircraft pop up on this board because they don't load on here. Every once in a while, you'll see one of the Gitmo 840s or whatever, that's Base Commander, that will just strangely pop onto this, but doesn't happen very often. Now, why is that important? Because charter aircraft are the only way you can get prisoners to and from Guantanamo Bay per the National Defense Act, okay? You're not allowed to use military assets. So what we're looking for are aircraft that are popping in out of sequence, like this one right here out of Miami. That's a little puddle jumper, right? And so that one is, right now it's just showing you everything that's up airborne for that same aircraft. But that's a little Saab aircraft, twin engine, turboprop, that's Saab 340. And so, if we just go over here, I'll just show you what that aircraft looks like real fast. But this is a little Saab 340. Pull this up. You guys can see little low wing puddle jumper, right? It's kind of like your Embraer 120, okay? All right, so, but that's the kind of stuff that we're looking for. So when you see those kind of aircraft pop in out of sequence, those are kind of red flags. That's usually going to be some activity going on that's outside of the norm. These that come out of Jacksonville, like the Sun Country charters, those are going to be your typically your legal eagles coming out of Jacksonville, right? So that's your legal counsel, your attorneys and things like that, because they have people down there that they represent, and they're in and out on a regular basis, a couple of days a week, okay? So they spend a lot of time there. United Airlines, same thing. It's either that or going to be troops doing a rotation, okay? Coming out of Jacksonville, not so much, but when we see it coming out like Biggs, those are kind of indicators that we have a troop rotation. They rotate troops out of Guantanamo Bay about every 3 months, all right? And so you'll see that rotation occurring. All right, now what you want to do is not just look at the arrival board, because what you're going to find is you're going to get aircraft. Now this one looks like it matches up pretty well. Everything that comes in is going out. But what you'll find is you'll see aircraft that show up that are that didn't show up on the arrival board, that just show up on the departure board. And so that is kind of another thing you got to watch, because they will sneak them in on you. And then your en route schedule too, you'll sometimes be able to pop this in and see other aircraft that are coming inbound that don't show up on your arrival board yet. So you have to kind of look at all three of those. Okay, now we're going to go look at our M312FU. Now this thing is actually currently coming out of Trinidad Tobago into Fort Lauderdale. All right, and so why is this important? Why are we watching this one? Because these aircraft are known agency birds, okay? And when I say agency, I don't want to get too specific on the agencies, but I will tell you that these spots, when you see them coming down into like Trinidad Tobago, Port-au-Prince, Haiti, Jamaica, Nassau, Bahamas, those are all international locations, and that is key because that changes the rules of engagement when you're dealing with hostiles, okay? And so what they do is they'll fly these little quick puddle jumpers down to these locations and do their shakedowns, and then either catch and release because they've gotten their information, or sometimes you'll see them actually bug out and go into Guantanamo Bay, and they'll actually bring them right into the spa. And so just keep your eyes on this one. Like I said, we watch this pretty regularly. It looks like it's currently en route. But it has also started to do the island hopping stuff, okay? And so when you start to see that right here, this is down in Nassau, Bahamas, know that somebody is probably getting the treatment, okay? All right, now over to our Phoenix birds. This one, again, we watched this one yesterday. It was down here in South America. It actually had flown down from Lima, Peru. It was headed southbound, and then it took a flight back up here to this location, which is Caraco. I don't know if I pronounced that right or not, but we're going with it. Back into Puerto Rico, and it looks like it is now headed actually back into a return flight. So But that was 11 hours ago. Now, when I get over to our Phoenix birds, you're going to see that there's another flight. It's just got a different call sign. It's not showing. We are currently on, specifically on that aircraft, okay? And so now we go over to N173PA. Now, that one came out of Iceland and went back into Washington, D.C., but this is one that was at our prison site, okay, over here at Terceira, all right? And so that is just a data point, all right? And so we continue to watch the Phoenix birds. Now, if you go live to the Phoenix birds, we don't have anything up right now, it looks like. But I will tell you, an hour ago when I was looking at this and I was doing my initial SITREP before I started having all of these problems, and so now I've had to re-record it. This is probably the third time I've had to do this today. But we had an aircraft, the ones that we were watching coming in and out of Ventura, going over to the little island out here off of the coast, which are going to be your regular daily flights in the morning and afternoons because they're taking people to work and back, okay? But we had a connectivity with one of the Phoenix birds that actually was going from Ventura to China Lake. And so we know China Lake is another location. We've seen flights going from El Segundo out to that area, Area 51, China Lake. And that's what they call the whitetails or the white birds, right? And so that one is a pretty regular flight, and that takes Northrop Grumman employees and other contractors out to that location. And the reason that is important to understand is because people don't want to live out there in China Lake because there's nothing there, really not any way to accommodate people, not a place you really want to live. And so what they do is they basically just use these shuttles to fly them back and forth to those locations, okay? All right, so let me see that. We're going to close down. All right, as you saw, that was down. Like I said, I've had issues all morning. I have tried several times and had flight aware gone down. I've had just weird, strange anomalies happening where things are going offline. And so it is what it is. I'm just glad I wasn't live when all this happened. So that's a blessing. So I'll take it from that, okay? All right, so these are going to be your Atlas Air flights. And so what you're going to see is the normal routes, you get them here coming over from Asian Pacific into the U.S. That's kind of the normal things. What we're looking for are flights that are headed over this direction. When you start to see that, it's usually troop movements, and that's usually telling us that they're getting ready to do something or there's something on the horizon, okay? And so these look to be all kind of normal. We were looking for some flights down here that were El Paso related, and I have not seen anything as of recent. We did have one the other week, which means they were moving some heavy duty supplies into El Paso. And so now let's get over to our Kalita bird. This was the one that's been going back and forth to El Paso pretty regularly on the schedule. As you can see, the tempos here, Charleston, El Paso, it was back and forth there quite a bit. It did bump in kind of an oddball down to Puerto Rico from Washington, which is kind of a strange flight. I don't know what that was all about. But again, that Puerto Rico site is one where we watch because it is there is a prison location down there in San Juan, okay? And that is we've been watching that occur, especially with the magma birds, okay? But right now, this one is up in Oscoda. It looks like it is back in, that is its base operations where they probably do, it's probably undergoing some light maintenance at this point because I'm pretty sure it just came out of a heavy check, okay? Okay, so let's break out the TFRs. We're going to get into that. I'm going to show you, this is going to be Flashbang's schedule for today, okay? Now you'll see here at in about 15 minutes, we're going to be looking for, he is departing Andrews, headed over to Columbus, Ohio, and I'm going to show you that, that TFR on the map, okay? But it looks like he comes back at about 7:40 this evening, so he's got a pretty long day ahead of him, which is rare because he's usually working half days. So we'll be looking for Flashbang and Air Force One/NA to pop up here in about 15 minutes, okay? And so that said, let's get over to the TFRs, all right? So we've got some interesting TFRs, and I want to point out the reason I say they're interesting is because they are security TFRs over major cities. and these are new. Okay, and I don't know why they're there. I don't know what's going on, but as you recall, we were talking recently about having some of these increased cargo aircraft going into major cities like Atlanta, like Dallas, LA, San Francisco. And I think maybe that was a preload of maybe movement of vaccines, and maybe some light troops for implementation. It's not major movement, but it's enough to where, there's definitely something going on, and it could be part of this new bill that's being rolled out. But they are definitely pushing this vaccine hard. Okay, and so, but here are your TFRs for today. So you can see we've got this one off of the Space Coast here. So that's going to be Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral. That's going to be your space operations TFR. We've got Warner Robins is still under a TFR, and those are security. This is your senior living center. That's going to be the brown zone, as we call it. And that is currently, that's just going to be an active, ongoing, always there. Okay. And so this is where Flashbang is headed to Ohio. And so we're going to watch for his aircraft here in a little bit to pop in. And then we're going to get into a couple of the others, and I'm going to pop in. We've got a little TFR here and one here. Now, I have not looked at this one, but I imagine it's going to be the same as this one right here. But as we get into it, let's drill down. All right, so that's a hazards TFR, and I don't know something about explosive device. Okay, so that's an emergency response for some type of a explosive device. I don't know, that's kind of, I didn't expect to see that one. So all right, so if you're in that area, got a TFR there. They don't want any airplanes around. And but let's get over here to Minnesota. I want to just show you one that caught my eye that I was like, yeah, this is kind of weird. Now this is St. Paul, Minneapolis, right downtown. This is a security TFR, all right? And so it's going to go from March 21st to the 27th. So keep that in mind. I don't know why we have security downtown Minnesota, Minneapolis, I mean. But just take note of it, because there's a lot of those right now, and it is very suspect. Okay, now let's get down here. I'm going to show you Texas, and I'm going to show you all the ones that we have, all right? Now, this is going to be your Dallas. This right here is G.W. Bush. He lives in North Dallas, okay? He has a permanent TFR over his location. And when you see it, just like all the other presidents, it says VIP, okay? That's permanent, always there, been there since he left office. Now, if we go here, this is a security TFR over Dallas, and it goes for 30 days over the Dallas area. I don't know why. I've asked my security guys, anybody that may be in the know that does a lot of stuff down here in Dallas, and they don't know either. So that is very suspect. Okay, this one is a regular. That's always down there south of San Angelo. But here we go. We're going to drop down. This one is south of Crystal City. That's in Carrizo Springs kind of area. Again, security TFR, the 22nd. So it's a 30-day security, exactly the same as we see in all the other places except for Minnesota, which is only a 7-day. So, and then up here, just in between Midland and Odessa. Now, remember, we did have an event that took place here, I want to say last year, and you know what I'm talking about without me having to say it. So, again, 30-day security TFR. Don't know why, what's going on here, but pay attention if you live in these areas. Stay frosty, because I don't know what those are, and I have not seen them before like that, okay? That is, to see all those pop up like that is definitely suspect, okay? And this one here, this is, I think that is a hazards, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's a hazards TFR, and that's a natural gas one. And so these are just kind of some of the typical natural gases that we see where they're doing a release. And so they put a TFR in the area as I guess they bleed the pipelines or something, get air out of the system or something, I guess. But that's Beale Air Force Base. That's kind of regular. I don't see any others up here. That one's a pretty frequent one too. That's always there. So it's kind of space operations. So Okay, let me back out and just kind of get into, let me go down here. Now this one is off of Puerto Rico. That's actually an island where they do bombing and do bomb drops and live ordnance and stuff like that. So that's always there as well. And then of course Guam out here in the out here is also, that's a permanent security TFR. And looks like we got some earthquakes that fired up here. And get out here to the Indian Ocean, and I don't see anything. Man, this is pretty quiet. I haven't seen no earthquake activity on this thing in a long time. So usually before it gets quiet, it starts getting pretty bad. So this line that you see coming around right here, going around the planet like that, that is actually going to be your International Space Station. So right here. And this actually will track that. It's just another one of the things this app does. It's pretty cool. But if you ever want to just check it out, it's on there and it can tell you, the thing will fly right overhead. It's pretty neat. Okay, so we get away from flashbang, and we got about 5 more minutes. We'll be looking for that aircraft, and I'm just going to look for it on the board over here because trying to find it in this sea of aircraft is going to be pretty difficult. Now, I will tell you, we have multiple E6s. Those are your looking glasses. Those are up all over the country. Don't really see 4 of them up at any given time very often. If you look at our H60 activity, it looks like we got about 15 up, so that's a little higher than usual, but and it's not in here. They're kind of scattered out, okay? All right, now look at our P3s. Let me back up just a touch. Look at all the P3s that are up right now across the United States. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 P3s and 3 P8s over the US right now. Okay, and that's not in country. That's actually out here popping out over the coasts and looking for stuff. So definitely something interesting going on when it comes to the subs. Okay. All right, now let's back out. I'm going to go over here to this side. We're going to look at a couple things here in the Middle East. Let our screen marinate here for a second because sometimes it takes a minute for things to pop on and off. Now, I will tell you, I was looking earlier. There was another Black Wolf sighting that was coming out of the UAE, Black Wolf 12. I don't know who that is. It showed as a U.S. military call sign, but it was one of our Glex aircraft. Okay, and if I can find it again, we'll pull it up. But those are definitely, I don't know who that is or who's on it, but Black Wolf is very interesting to say the least. Looks like you got a little Eurofighter here bugging out over the Middle East. That is going to be a UK Eurofighter. Got a little C-130 that's also UK, and another UK air refueler right there. And then we've got our usual, as always, our air refueler that's looks like he's doing work out of Kuwait. Okay. And so that is looking like your Middle East. Now, it has quieted down quite a bit since I started doing this a couple hours ago and had to redo it. So, you know, it is what it is. So these gray aircraft are on ground. These orange ones are either climbing out or on final. So this one looks like it just took off. That's going to be one of your French military Airbuses. These are over the UK. That's going to be Osprey, a US Osprey. So the US has been doing a lot of stuff over here lately. These are trainers. All this is all trainer activity. That's going to be Marine 12. That's a trainer actually. And then these are all trainers too. Okay. These are going to be your Chinooks. And for those not familiar with your Chinooks, that's going to be what I call your banana copter. Okay. It's your twin blade troop carrier. But you can see the 2 rotors up here, and it makes a heck of a lot of noise. And so those are, look like I've got a couple of those up. And then these are your Apache gunships. If I can get my screen to actually load it, that's not an Apache gunship. Hang on a second. That is an Apache gunship. And so it looks like we got several of those up, a couple Chinooks, and this little Apache gunship here. I don't know what they're doing up this area. We've got 4 or 5 of them up, and that's a 2-ship. And so for those not familiar with the gunship, the Apache, that's what it looks like. It's that thing can do some heck of damage. All right. And so this guy, you got a guy in the front, a guy in the back. So it's a two-man helo. And this gun right here and these cameras are connected to this guy's helmet. So when he turns his head, he can turn that gun and do a lot of stuff. It's a pretty impressive aircraft. Super duper quiet. This thing can sit. A little advanced radar right here gives them images, and it's got FLIR cameras right here, so it can do night vision and stuff like that. And of course, these are missile mounts, and then these are Hellfires that go into this, and so you can see that holds quite a few. That's a lot of holes. Okay, but that said, that thing, man, can sit and just watch and observe a location a pretty good fair distance away for a long period of time, and you would never even know he's there. Okay. The rotors on that have a little bit of a swept tip on them, like they're designed from a sparrow or a hawk when they dive, and the wings fold back and they're silent in their dive. And so they figured out on helicopters that if you put that little tip on there that's got the little swept wing on it, it actually can make them silent or almost silent. You don't know they're there until they're right on top of you. So pretty impressive engineering feat there. So all right, so that looks like the UK. So we're going to bug back over here to the United States real fast. All right, man, this SITREP has been painful. I've had so many issues, I can't even begin to tell you, of the screens locking up and doing just weird, strange things. So Open ADSB seems to be very sporadic today. So this is your live look. Now, this is going to be your Air Force 2 rolling out of this location. Looks like it was actually in Alabama. Huntsville, okay. So I think we originally thought it was in Tennessee because we had some weather on top of it. I couldn't really see well. So it looks like it's coming out of Huntsville. I will tell you that is not Bob Marley, okay. Bob Marley went back to DC last night. That aircraft actually came out of Colorado Springs this morning, went to Huntsville, and now it's headed northbound. Looks like it's headed back into DC. This is going to be your night watch that took off a little earlier. You can see it took off around 12:10. Okay, and so what we're looking for right now is actually looking for Flashbang to actually depart. Now, he will not depart early, 10 minutes early. Not likely. So that very doubtful he is on that aircraft. Although I will tell you, we have, in addition to Night Watch up, we have 4 E6s up, which are Looking Glass, and I can count on one hand the amount of times I've seen 4 of those up plus Night Watch. So very strange indeed. Okay. This is going to be one of your Venuses. This thing was doing some touch and goes, as well as this one out here. We have another Venus. Those are all, both part of the presidential fleet. That's Triple Ball 3, and that's a 5.7, and then this one is a little 737. All part of the fleet coming in and out of that area. Now, they don't appear, they look like they were just doing touch and goes and then, just practice. It doesn't appear that they stopped and let anybody off. And so, so we'll sit here and watch for a minute. Let's see. Now we do have, there we go, NA. All right, so let me get over to our other thing. So that is Air Force One, has just departed. It's climbing out. Again, out of DC. This is Night Watch. That is still flying as, it's still showing as NA. So let me get over here. I want to look on our other. All right. So, well, that's it. It looks like that's going to be our Air Force One for today. It's still flying as an NA. I will tell you, as I bump over to some of the other sites, I can't find it anywhere. Now, I will tell you, this right here is a Bird 747, a heavy coming into Andrews, the brown zone, and this is going to be your Night Watch. And so in between those two is Air Force One, and he's not even showing on this software. So don't really know what to make of that. So, but that kind of goes with the rest of the day, because I've spent probably about 3 hours sitting here trying to just to get through it. Software has just not been cooperating, and so I've had to redo the show several times. Glad I wasn't live, because it would have been a hot mess. So, all right, folks, that's all I've got. So you guys be safe out there. Again, watch those security zones, TFRs in your general area if that's over a city that you are in, especially here in Texas, because things definitely don't seem right. So, all right, that's it. God bless. Monkey out.